It's actually a great honor for me to be in Africa. This is the first actual presentation I've done on Africa, so please be patient with me if there are certain aspects of the presentation that don't concentrate on Africa. I'd like to get as much information from this group as well. Just as an introduction for those who don't know VeriFone, we are one of the largest manufacturers and suppliers of transaction acceptance solutions in the world. We've gone over $2 billion revenue in 2012. Some of you might know we've hit a few bumps over the last few quarters, but we continue to be an outstanding performer in the segment that we're in. I joined VeriFone about 8 months ago as part of an acquisition, and I found that the depth of knowledge and personnel is actually outstanding within VeriFone, especially in the African market within South Africa. We are active in the African continent as well as across Europe, Asia Pacific, and the United States, South America, so we're truly a global company. The purpose of my presentation today is to try to give some insight into what's going to happen to retailers with the explosion of NFC, I would say NFC and mobile wallets across the world globally, and give you some insight into what's going on, where we see the technology going, and where we're putting our investments in to be able to support that technology. It has a little bit of a VeriFone flavor to it, but effectively the infrastructure that's needed for acceptance is kind of uniform. Everyone's going to have to end up doing it. So the first part is we need to understand the revolution that mobile phones and the mobile infrastructure has brought upon these four gigantic industries. Of course, the mobile industry is effectively, it used to be you had a mobile phone and you talked on it. Now, it still is a primary application for it, but we see entrants because we can get into the virtual space. We see more entrants in the virtual world moving into services, as well as the international card schemes such as Visa and MasterCard, and so also some of the ones from the Far East. In addition, retailers are seeing now the advantage of applications running on mobile phones to be able to do cataloging, to get closer to their customers. So there's a disparate amount of work going in various areas across the entire spectrum of mobile. One of the goals, an abstract goal, is to get everything out of a wallet into digital storage. I have a mental problem, I would say a mental problem with this, because when I think about a digital wallet, I sort of think about when automobiles came, digital wallet is sort of like saying, well, does the horse go on the back of that car, or does the horse go on the front of that car? Because we have a completely different technology, and it's good that we talk about wallets because we understand what's in wallets, but this goes much further beyond what's just in your wallet because it's really an interactive device. Just as a little background, so we understand the technological difference, I really want to distinguish between two kinds of POS wallets that are used at the point of sale. First is NFC. I will talk about how we see that expanding. And the other one is a cloud wallet, where there's some kind of token that you enter at the point of sale, and out into cyberspace, you retrieve the information necessary to complete a transaction. And they're two different kinds of technologies, but what I want to concentrate on is further to that, just to make sure that we understand there are additional wallets, and that the first two are the handset wallet, we actually come in with a physical device. The second one was, I said, cloud-based, and there's also this incredible system that's arisen in Africa that, for your information, is being replicated all over in some of the markets in Europe, the M-Pesa and the security and the ability to do cash transfers with MNOs. It's something that the world really looks at with awe, the success of that system. One of the issues in the previous presentation was about security. So what we see is that, from our perspective, is that NFC, for a number of different wallets, offers a level of security that's a little bit, that reuses a lot of the technological solutions that's on the phone as well as the point of sale. For cloud-based solutions, we use the conventional security that's on the point-of-sale acceptance, which is typically, we have a security device where you enter the PIN, it gets encrypted, it's hard to read. So you need, in any case, at the point of sale, you need some secure device at the point of sale, whether it's a cloud-based wallet or whether it's an NFC-based wallet. Much the same way a contactless card or MaxRight card or even manual entry at a point of sale. The security requirements are there, and the advantage in the point of sale world is we have quite a bit of that infrastructure in place, and we can ride on, as they say, ride on the rails of the existing infrastructure. So I would like to just concentrate a little bit on mobile phones and why personally I believe this is going to happen. I was a little bit doubtful a few years ago. One of the reasons was I went to Mobile World Congress, which has just exploded. And my assignment was, within the point group, to find out, should we make an investment to put NFC acceptance on our terminals now? And that was 3 years ago. And the answer was, well, they're not putting NFC on there. What's changed is the NXP, who's a silicon manufacturer, has decided that the chip that they normally do Bluetooth and Wi-Fi will now, as default, have NFC on it. So the controller chip for the handset manufacturers is part of an integrated chipset, so there's no additional infrastructure investment that the handset manufacturers have to make in order to have NFC. So as a consequence of that, we've seen an explosion of NFC phones. And a number of consultants' estimates of the size of the NFC transactions have just exploded over the past 3 years. So today, and these slides, it's really difficult in the handset world because you do the slides in December of 2012 and it's March 2013 and there's just even more of them on there. So they're all on there. I don't know. I've had an NFC phone now for 12 months. I have to admit I've never used it for anything. I know you can beam in and contact and set up your speakers, but we do know that there are markets where major players are making incredible amounts of investment in infrastructure, getting their products into NFC services. Among those, as you can see, are the standard kind of US and European names. I again apologize because I don't have the in-depth information of exactly what's going on in the African market, but I'm sure there's a lot going on as well in the African market. So they're making investments in the technology. And so what we like to call this the wallet wars. And the major brands are trying to make sure when you get your NFC-enabled phone, if you have a wallet, you're going to use their wallet. And the three ones that I've indicated here are very much US-centric. Google announced their wallet, and there was a rush to try to, between ISIS, which the mobile operators in the US tried to rush in and perform a similar kind of service, and PayPal is going off on their own. So there are a number of wallets that are arising. So just to go through some of the trends that we see, the U.S. is a really, really diverse market in terms of the major ones that I talk about are Google Wallet. So Google wanted the NFC acceptance and the wallet to be used at the point of sale. We've supported Google since 2011. I mean VeriFone. There are others who support it. So Google Wallet is part of contactless acceptance, requires a different kind of protocol. I'll get into some details of that because that's a little bit of it's kind of difficult for merchants who want to accept it. So that's growing. Google initially started with only, in my wallet, you can only have a MasterCard, I believe it was, but now you can have a MasterCard, a Visa card, a Discover card, which at the acceptance point it might be a little bit interesting. When I take out my real wallet, I can grab my card and I know what to do with it. When I have my phone, if you use the mobile phone, sometimes it can be difficult. There's a lot of buttons to press in preparation to get before you tap your phone. ISIS, the joint venture, which I think was a reaction to some of the other wallets, was those two titans again. We have global, we have the virtual world. We have, in Google, we have the MNOs. I'm not going to get into the banks a little bit. PayPal is kind of the cowboys of the industry because they started online and they're moving into offline. So they're also getting into the wallet. But then the merchants, who in our industry, in the payment industry, are kind of adverse to actually paying money for electronic transactions. Merchant service charges tend to be sometimes arbitrary, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Debit cards are up. But the merchants say, hey, wait, if we can get into this business, we're going to be able to establish our own merchant service charges. So the merchants in the US are also involved in putting together a wallet, which they said it won't be NFC first out. But I think if you go back and look at the number of phones that are going to be issued over the next few years, you will find that technology is going to get quite a grip. Within EMEA, there's a couple of things that are happening within EMEA. Google has announced that they will expand their wallet into the EMEA region. But in EMEA, we see a lot because of the nature of the individual countries. We see a lot of mobile network operators trying to get into the wallet space because of their compressed returns on their subscription. So mobile network operators who take radio spectrum and try to get margin from radio spectrum are looking for any way to be able to get margin from their subscribers. And one of them is to introduce mobile wallets into the phones. So we're participating in a specific number of these projects, not the least of which is Turkey and Sweden, which is kind of my adopted home country, as well as the UK. There has been some stumble blocks, but we see the maturity. These products are starting to get to the maturity where there's real use cases behind them. Asia Pacific, interestingly enough, NFC and proximity payments within Japan and Korea have been in operation, certainly in Japan, for 10 years using the FELICA standard. There's some interesting acceptance characteristics in Japan where if I have my phone and I have my wallet, my phone sort of like belongs to me, but my wallet and those cards belong to the bank. So I'm not sure if I want to put my bank thing on the phone and vice versa. I have my phone, I don't really want to do banking. So the use case in Japan specifically, it might be cultural, is a little bit difficult. And there hasn't been an explosion of NFC payments, but there's a lot of services that are done with NFC today. China, very interesting. I was acting as a consultant to a Chinese NFC project, and the pilot was to have 250,000 users in a pilot. So that was the scale in China. Once you start to move around there, it's a little bit different than what we're used to any place in the world. But there are a number of ongoing efforts for NFC, both in payment as well as in transportation. In Canada and as well as in Latin America, we're seeing an explosion. I put I must apologize again as I was constructing this presentation, I didn't have enough information to embarrass myself to talk about what's going on in Africa, so I kind of withdrew from doing that slide for this one. But globally, I think one of the things that at Mobile World Congress 2 weeks ago, which is an absolutely incredible show, 80,000 people and crowding into Barcelona, waiting an hour and a half to get taxis, and Samsung and the only handset manufacturer not there is Apple. They've never come there because their brand is so well ingrained they don't believe to go there. But Samsung made a major announcement that all of their phones ongoing will have Visa's PayPass mobile wallet built into the telephone. So from now on, all Samsung telephones that come out, a bank will be able to provision a PayPass card onto a Samsung phone. I think that's a pretty significant step forward, especially considering, again, coming back to these clashes of the titans, that Samsung, they're out to get, who are they out to get? We know who they're all out to get in terms of market share. They're out to get Apple right now. And so Apple, who hasn't come out with NFC, sort of says, oh, we don't need NFC, but maybe you'll see something happen with Apple, because they tend to be on the front wave of it. And globally, there's just a lot more to go. It's almost every week, from our perspective, every week, once a month, we see 5 new mobile wallets that are coming out. So there's a proliferation of mobile wallets. There's probably no less around the world than at least 150 different mobile wallets. So the question is, from there, who do you bet on? Who are you going to make the investment on to be able to use those mobile wallets at point of sale for acceptance from merchants? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anyone really knows the answer. My opinion is MasterCard and Visa, they'll be there. They will be in the mobile wallet space. I have no doubt about it. They've made a lot of investments through the years in their schemes. So the schemes will be there. The major banks will be there. The MNOs, Google, PayPal, they are fighting to get there. But in any case, what does a retailer need? If we look back in the past, a retailer would put a sticker. Back in the old days, when you knew that you signed a contract, the envelope came with a sticker, and you put your sticker on your door, and you had a zip-stop machine, and now you could take that one now. And then that progressed to being a terminal. So what do we do? What are we doing now? Before we even got into NFC, before we got into mobile payments, from the beginning of EMV, we have all of this explosion of technology, different kinds of technological acceptance. And for those of you who are the veterans of the EMV wars, this took a lot of work. It was 10 years from the time we said we're going to have an EMV national program in Sweden, where I did a lot of work in it. From the time the commitment came from the banks till we said we actually have rollout of EMV, rather I said NFC. It took 10 years before that was rolled out. And I think one of the characteristics of NFC, which we try to weigh in our head to about our investments, is, are we making a mistake in thinking that NFC is going to take some compressed period of time as compared to EMV? And I don't know the answer to that. As I said, 3 years ago I was a little bit skeptical about it, but I've actually changed my mind for a number of reasons. Firstly is this is regional acceptance, and probably within the African continent, which I'm not an expert on, there are just as many certification periods as there are countries and banks, similarly across Latin America and Europe. So all that complexity that we have now we throw in NFC mobile. And consumers have a card, typically in the regions where we're doing NFC, they have a card, a smart card in their wallet. And if you, the very first time you use your smartphone, it doesn't work, you're not going to use it the next time. So we have a challenge to make sure that technology works. And it's just going to be more to come. I think it's an industry, it's a very exciting industry to be in now, because they're just it's an explosion of technology, and we believe that it's going to continue along that way for at least the next 5 years. So again, going back to that diagram, a consumer with multiple wallets, they don't, in our industry, in the payment industry, payment needs to disappear in the background. You don't want payment to be you don't want payment to be a problem, you don't want it to be prominent. When a merchant is interested in making sure that their customers buy more things and they get more customers. Banks are interested in making sure the financial transaction is secure. So the business that we're in, at least within VeriFone, is kind of, we need to be in the background. We're like a referee in a soccer game. If we're prominent, we're doing the wrong thing. We need to be in the background. So it has to work. And with the proliferation of different wallets, we're going to have to provide a multiplicity of applications. And those applications within the terminal are going to have different kinds of security characteristics. They're going to have different kinds of acceptance scenarios. So we're in the midst of quite a bit of work to be able to supply merchant acceptance devices that match up to what's going on with NFC. And it's not easy. Because tools for NFC acceptance, if we look at the way that how the consumer gets the NFC acceptance device into his hand, there's a lot of complexity besides just getting the phone. Today, there are 3 or 4 different models of commissioning phones. You put it in the SIM card. If it's in the SIM card, it's owned by the MNO, and you need a relationship with the bank to be able to put their credentials into the SIM card. Or is it in the secure device? If the secure device if it's owned by the MNO, do they own the secure device, and can the card scheme put it in there? And there's a lot of technology out there that solves a lot of the problems, but the commercial agreements are kind of, they're in infancy right now. We're really finding our way. On the acceptance side, fortunately for us, and I give this from a VeriFone perspective, but the functionality needs to be the same regardless of who is the actual supplier of technology. So we break that down into the actual point of sale, what we call the application manager, the estate manager, where we can push programs and acceptance tools onto the device, and also the back network, because on the rails of the standard card schemes, it's really just kind of, if it came from the card, we set this bit inside, then it will flow through, and there are clearing rules. But when we get into other kinds of offers, and that's towards the end of this presentation, there are no standards for this. So we need to be able to get any transactions that happen at the point of sale from NFC back to their respective value-added supplier. So of course, for us, it's easy steps, because you see there's more equipment and sales and services that we can push out, that we can offer. So you need to get enabled. You have to be able to have the infrastructure to take NFC transactions. You need to have the applications that correspond to the NFC applications that you want to take. And then you need to manage it. And that means making sure that you can get connected back to the banks and value-added service providers who are the ones responsible for actually financial clearing and bonus clearing. So, oddly enough, getting enabled is pretty easy when you come and talk to VeriFone. All of our latest generations of terminals and acceptance devices are completely NFC enabled. It's an outgrowth of our commitment for contactless cards, and we see NFC enablement as from a hardware perspective as an extension to be able to take NFC. Much like in the years when we installed terminals that had a chip card reader in it, but no one had EMV, we're prepared for it. We've made quite a major investment, as you can see, across all segments. So from countertop to mobile, to multi-lane, standalone, even to mobile. And if you come by our stand, you can see some of the devices that we use that are all NFC enabled. I think we have a nice product portfolio. The second part is multi-tenant, multi-application. And what we use within our systems, this is part of the terminal management system, is the ability for a merchant to easily, through whichever agent they're speaking to be able to put the corresponding application onto their phone in a secure manner. I think when we talked about PCI, VeriFone has been participating in PCI since before there was PCI. So the equipment that we build, our management systems, are always in compliance with PCI security requirements. And finally, to be able to manage the estate, which consists of normal management of your acceptance devices. So if you're a bank or an acquirer, you need to know where your devices are. You're mandated by the card schemes to know where they are. But those three, the combination of those three, will enable merchants to accept these new mobile wallets through NFC. But I just wanted. That's sort of the gist of the problem that merchants and banks and even mobile operators, not so much handset operators, are facing now. You have the device in your hand, and there was an article in one of the Swedish newspapers that said, when the NFC came out, that you can now wave your phone in front of a terminal and you're going to be able to pay. We had this nightmare of all our installed terminals, people coming by and just waving their phones and saying, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. I don't know what happened. Because again, there's just so many misconceptions about how this will work. So the other portion of this, which we see as is going to be explosive, is what we call mobile marketing platform. Because NFC and smartphones push things into the phone. So it's a credit card going into the phone. But for merchants and MNOs, it's a new infrastructure. It gives you a new way for mobile network operators and merchants to reach their customers. So a mobile network operation operated with their portfolio of subscribers can push deals out on behalf of stores out to the phone. So hopefully, at some point when we do NFC acceptance, when you do the payment, you'll be able to hold the phone and your coupons will move right into the store. And even the store can push things back into your phone using different kinds of technology. And we see that as a real value add on top of NFC that will drive it forward. Sometimes I wonder about it. And at Mobile World Congress, which was gigantic, they had NFC tag posters on the walls, the size of this red, and you could go and tap your phone and acquire different kinds of information. And there were probably 10 or 20 of them across all. I didn't see a single person, not a single person was using NFC tags. That was a little bit worrying in terms of the industry. But I think for merchants and mobile network operators, I think there are margins to be made in these kinds of services. So what we've developed within VeriFone, and I'll blow our horn a little bit on this, or others that also have this, is the ability and the back office systems to be able to generate campaigns and coupons, push them out to the phones, and we have the systems that are able to close the loop back to the merchants who give out the coupons, back to the MNOs, and back to the other service providers. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but I just want to make sure we understood it's not just about the retailers being able to accept payment about NFC. This is going to open up a whole new world of possibilities for merchants to be able to retain their customers, for mobile network operators to get a better return per their installation. So, having started a little bit early, I have another 7 minutes. to go on this. My colleague said you'll never get through those slides in 30 minutes, impossible. But I hope to just give you, what I wanted to give you a flavor of was reduction in complexity, because users at the end, the people who have the handset in their hands, they don't want to press 7 or 8 buttons. They don't want to do that. Merchants don't want to have to configure a number of different applications on their phone. And we'll be successful in this endeavor with NFC for acceptance for payment and for additional merchant services if we aim to keep it simple in terms of the user interfaces. The technology is not simple, and it's going to take a while. So my conclusions, some of the conclusions I have: mobile wallets something is going to happen in NFC. There's just so much investment that's been made inside the phone, and there are market players all over. So I think we'll see it. At some point, consumers will expect to be able to use that service since they've been given it. They might back off from it initially, but we're in a long-term. It's a long-term process right now. Retailers, if they are to maintain their customer base and offer their consumers what's needed, are going to need the kind of infrastructure to support multi-applications. And for me, again, mobile wallets, which is the ability to at the point of sale interact with your customer in kind of a really quick and interactive way that's transparent to the retailer and transparent to the handset holder, is a real opportunity to take a step further minimally in customer relationship management. Because again, NFC, one of the difficulties with receiving, getting an electronic receipt is, well, I have to have your email address, I have to need to know where, and I don't want to give away my email address, but just imagine, NFC, I push the receipt right onto your phone, then you can do what you want. So there are just so many applications that could be useful here. And I guess the thing that really kind of, with people who've been in this industry for a long time, is we would have never imagined this existed 15 years ago. We're in a place where we couldn't have imagined that we're there. So it's really only up to we who are in this industry to try to push forward and try to make sure that we can offer better products and services to merchants, to MNOs, to the end card holders.